Andrew, and good afternoon, fellow delegates. Just to set expectations correctly, we're 12 minutes and 35 seconds away from lunch, I think. My name's Don West. I'm Sales Director for West Fraser, UK and Ireland. So to say that the UK's position on climate change and carbon reduction is complicated would be a massive understatement. We've led other developed economies across the world in reducing our carbon emissions and taken our place at the forefront of international conferences, such as in Paris and more recently in Cornwall, calling for greater commitment to achieving the changes required to meet net zero and to keep temperature rise to within 1.5 degrees of pre-industrial times. In fact, figures published by the government at the end of last month indicated that UK territorial greenhouse gas emissions fell further across several key sectors between 2022 and 2023, resulting in the country having travelled more than halfway towards our net zero pledge. This equates to emissions having fallen by an impressive 53% from 1990 to last year, and this includes those figures linked to international aviation and shipping. This is in part due to improvements across our electricity supply chain as we move towards the use of more renewables, with offshore wind energy increasing dramatically, while onshore wind and solar generation are also making significant contributions. Yet estimates on the future costs for completing decarbonisation of the national grid remain eye-watering and rising, with our advanced gas-cooled and other nuclear reactors scheduled for closure, while Hinkley Point continues to suffer delays, and the proposed new fleet of modular nuclear reactors are still at the tendering stage. Controversially, while many in Westminster and amongst the concerned population are calling for the pace of change to be swifter, political pragmatism has led to deadlines being pushed back for ending sales of petrol and diesel vehicles and the switch away from using fossil fuels to heat our homes. This sometimes confused messaging highlights one of the main challenges for the planned but still uncertain roadmap which will take us to net zero, and that is of keeping the public on side when the cost to individuals is considerable, due to both additional taxation and the more expensive technologies that people are being asked to adopt. And meanwhile, traditional jobs in manufacturing, most recently in steel making, are being lost to overseas suppliers. And while impassioned advocates are probably united in the view that there cannot be gain without pain, sceptics have been able to claim that much of the UK's achievement on carbon reduction is due to the offshoring of our manufacturing, sometimes actually resulting in higher figures for products embodied carbon. And this is a subject I would suggest should be of high importance for all the companies represented here today. The year-on-year cut in carbon emissions referred to earlier included a 7.2% improvement from housing and 8% from industry. The report does not, though, mention how much extra embodied energy features when essentials like household white goods are produced in China using coal-fired power stations. And while the UK may well be outpacing countries like France and our other neighbours in the race towards net zero, we still have the leakiest, least energy efficient housing stock in Europe. And despite initiatives such as the Energy Companies Obligation, or ECO, launched back in 2013 and now in its fourth iteration, a large proportion of properties remain very poorly insulated and classed as hard to heat. Unquestionably, the quest to lift the wider population out of fuel poverty has proved to be an evolution rather than a revolution, made more difficult by recent spikes in energy prices. Sadly, the country is not doing much better in terms of updating the residential landscape, with recent figures from the CPA on completions showing the impact of economic headwinds and, most importantly, high borrowing rates. Despite the building industry being amongst the first to get back to work, in 2020, after the pandemic hit, completions were down at just 166,000, Though, unexpectedly, the working from home phenomenon saw a surge in demand from purchasers, most markedly in rural areas. And as a result, 2021 saw a recovery to 201,000, before 2022 brought our highest total in recent times to 207,000 completions. However, with central banks hiking base rates back to levels not seen since before the millennium, numbers have fallen off a cliff again, and with a paltry 176,000 new homes finished last year, a number that does not even meet the needs of population growth, and leaves the next generation wondering where they will find a home of their own. We not only need to build high quality homes, but we also need to build far more of them, and at an affordable cost. And the UK's house builders have repeatedly complained that aside from the dysfunctionality of the planning system, shortages of skilled labour and materials are as well hampering their efforts. Last month, when the STA's Andrew Carpenter chaired a webinar on the subject of embodied carbon, the architect and director of the Thrive team at Chetwood's Architects, Philippa Birchwood, emphasised that the construction industry should be making much more use of plant-based building materials. It's a laudable ambition, and certainly demonstration projects such as the then Prince Charles's Natural House at the Building Research Establishment proved what can be done with materials like sheep's wool and hemp. But I would argue that to address the pressing issues of speed and volume, then timber presents the best option. Timber is not just versatile, it's our most sustainable material, far less energy intense in use than brick, concrete or steel, and actually locks in carbon for the life of the structure. Looking across the built environment, you can see open and closed timber frame systems used to create both low and medium rise homes, while cross-laminated timber and glue-laminated structures feature widely for commercial and public buildings, including educational and medical facilities. There are also a growing number of projects where structural timber systems are being employed by developers for the reconfiguration and enlargement of existing properties because of the lower additional loads imposed on retained elements, including the foundations, as well as the attractive and biophilic interior environments created. Meanwhile, at West Fraser, in addition to the high volumes of Sterling OSB 0, Caberfloor and Caber MDF, which are consumed in traditional building projects on sites all across the country, we are seeing a growing number of customers employing our panel products in the production of high-performance SIP systems and other innovative off-site solutions, which exceed the highest requirements of the building regulations and building standards, or which contribute to passive house performance. It is important that the timber industry helps specifiers understand exactly how its products contribute to the sustainability of their schemes. And to this end, West Fraser has recently introduced a carbon calculator based on the typical 3-bedroom property constructed with structural timber elements featuring our panel products, as well as timber skirtings, architraves and window boards. The calculator permits house builders to see how many kilograms of CO2e will be sequestered. We've chosen to express this as the equivalent number of times a smartphone can be recharged with that energy. Chain of custody is another strong asset within the industry, with the highly regarded PEFC standard enabling its users to offer customers certified confirmation of just how quickly the wood consumed on a project will be replaced by trees planted across Europe's well-managed forests, with all the lumber for even a large commercial development typically being regrown in just a few minutes or even seconds. Across the West Fraser's UK plants, we're continuing on our carbon negative journey with £20 million investment at the Cowie site, where a new dryer drum, Cyclops filter and high pressure resin systems have all been introduced to reduce energy usage and improve quality. Across Europe, the group's target was to become carbon negative by 2030. And is currently on track to have achieved a 56% reduction by 2025 against a 2019 baseline. A major contributor to this has been to construct the new Inverness plant without fossil fuel sources, instead burning biomass and switching to electric forklift trucks along with other changes. Also, by the end of next year, the new railhead at Inverness will be finished, avoiding thousands of lorry journeys a year, with annual carbon savings of 9,000 tonnes of CO2. There is also a highly significant human dimension to the improvements being made by West Fraser and many other STA member companies. And that is in terms of the skill sets and stable, well-paid careers on offer. Plants like Inverness and Cowie not only support forestry jobs across a very wide area, but they also contribute to the forestry management process and oversight, while West Fraser offers apprenticeships as well as vocational qualifications and sponsors a number of programmes at Strathclyde University. Furthermore, its work with schools includes encouraging more female pupils to engage with STEM subjects. So in summary, we believe that the engineered timber industry should be proud of its record and the way it is assisting the UK to expand and improve its housing stock, as well as the wider built environment. We are delivering on many fronts, not only helping to lock carbon into well-designed, low-maintenance, high-efficiency, sustainable structures, but we're doing so in a way which is upskilling the workforce, offering long-term career structures while supporting forestry and wider ecological goals. We should therefore encourage more customers and decision makers to embrace the potential of engineered timber as a material for positive change. Thank you very much.